Yeah, so the project text we have here, I recommended to you that you nominate somebody in your group to be a cost and time manager. Has everybody done that? A cost and time manager. I would recommend that at least somebody who's interested in doing this stuff, at least for the first few weeks, sits down and kind of follows along with this MS Project stuff, because it's actually quite simple when you understand it, and it just saves you so much time later in the course if you just understand it, because that's just the way it is. So I'm just going to go through very mechanically, just as a demonstration, how to set up a project in MS Project, and just the beginning point of how to set up tasks and so on. Has anybody used MS Project before? No. But with Jakob, you kind of set up some kind of schedule for the first project, but this is, well, let's just take it forward and see how it goes. So I open up MS Project and I get these templates, and all I'm doing here is setting up a blank project. So I'm just going to go into blank project, and it looks something like this. And this is the Gantt chart view, and a Gantt chart is just a Gantt chart is just a series of tasks set in here on the left, and then a series of bars showing where it exists in the calendar here on the right. You can always change the view of your project by pressing the Gantt chart button up on the left here, and you can change it to network diagram or task sheet, resources, and so on. I'll get into all that stuff later. But the basic view is this Gantt chart, and this is kind of where you set all your stuff up. So the first thing we need to do is make sure the project is correctly set up for what we want it to do. So I'm going to go into File and into Options. And under Options, we've got various things we can change, the date format and so on. And then we have, if my computer will work, we can change the calendar type. Probably leave it at Gregorian. That's the kind of normal Western calendar. But we can also change the type of money we're using. And since we're in Denmark, we're going to use Danish krona. So I think they call that K. Where is it? DKK. DKK. There we go. And so we'll leave that there. We'll leave the rest of it together. And we can change the schedule as to when the week starts. Monday is fine. We can change the hours per day. Let's just change that to 7.2. And we can change the hours per week to 37. And we can pretty much leave it like that. Once we do that, we press OK. Then we know that the project has been set up with the correct working time and the correct currency for the project we're working on. Now, what I'm going to do to start off with, I'm going to use this basis calendar here as the organizing principle for the project, because you need to organize your overall time frame for the project within the school here, because that's actually a requirement of the project. So I'm actually just doing this in class, at least showing you how to set it up in class. So we have all this information here as to how we want to set it up. We've got the overall tasks, the design, bid, build project, which is the Udderslev Mohs housing, and we've got the prototype house, which we're working on now. So I'm just going to set up a first task, and it's as simple as just clicking on task name, and I'm just going to set it up and call it semester project. There we go. So easy as that. Just type in what we want to do, semester project, and then we have it's divided into the design and build project. So I'm going to call that one prototype house, and the other one is called Udderslev Mohs house. Udderslev Mohs house. So all we've done so far is just type in what we have. So now we want to give these a priority within the project. So the semester project, the entire semester project, takes into account these two elements here. So I'm going to select both of them like this, and up here we have a little button called indent task. If I click indent task, you can see that suddenly these two tasks become subordinate to the semester project. See, if I select them here again, there's this little button here, indent task. If I've done that wrong and if I want them to have the same level as the overall project, I can just press it back again and they just have the same level again. But I want them to be, within the overall semester project, so I'm going to indent them here. This changes the type of task here that the semester project is. Before, if I indent it back again, it was just this, Wednesday, 1 day of project. But if I change it by indenting it, it becomes what's called a summary task. So it's a task that takes into account all the tasks within it. Okay, so that's like a key element of the way MS Project works, is that you can always make things into full-on tasks or summary tasks. So let's just open this up a bit more so we can get into more detail as to how this is going to work. I'm just stretching this out so we can see what's going on. If you don't change anything in MS Project, it automatically takes today's date as being the start point of your project. But if we go back and we look at the other one, the PDF over here, let me maximize this. The start date was the 10th week of the year. So I'm going to go back into, my Outlook isn't working here, so let's have to go back into this here and go into the calendar. So if I go into month view, I can see that week 10 started on the 2nd. If we're talking about the Monday, it started on the 2nd of March. So I'm going to put that in as the start date for the project here. So back into project. What are the start date? March the 2nd. And the finish date, if we go back in again, into this one here. The finish date is going to be week 23. So I'm going to go back into here and go to week 23. So week 23, it's going to be the 4th of June. So go back in here, put the finish date to be the 4th of June. Like that. So you can see over here in the calendar, it's now taken the summary task of the entire semester project all the way across to the 4th of June. So we have a visual representation of how long that's going to be. Does that make sense to everybody?
Is it going to be a lecture of this in front or?
I'm recording this. Okay, so I'm gonna do the exercise again with the prototype house. So the prototype house is, if we go back in here, it started at week 10, so the same date, and we wanted to finish at the end of week 14. So week 14, let's go back into week 14, and that's let's say on the Monday. Now let's say on the Wednesday, because it's Easter break at that time. So we'll say the 7th of April. So go back into MS Project, and I'm going to say this is starting Monday 2nd, and it's going up to the 7th of April. So you can see that this task has been set up with the correct dates, and again we have a graphical representation of it in the Gantt chart. And I'm just going to do that one more time with the other Sleemos housing, and rather than starting it at the same time, I'm going to start it when this one finishes. But I'm just to show you how this works, I don't need to type in the entire amount. I can get the tasks to be linked together, which means they have a relationship to each other. So if I say that I want the other Sleemos house to start after the prototype house is finished, then I can just link them together within MS Project, and it will automatically move the start date of the Uddersley Moes house until the prototype house is finished. So let's just give it a duration. If I say, okay, we want the Uddersley Moes house to be, let's say we want it to be 60 days, just for the sake of argument. It starts by putting it in today. But if I link it together, if I select the prototype house, hold down Control and select Uddersley Moes, and I press this little chain up the top here, link together, you can see that it links the two tasks together, and it's moved the start date of the Uddersley Moes out to whenever the prototype house is finished. Does that make sense to everybody? Again, I can press this little arrow here and it'll fold up all the tasks into the overall task, which is called semester project. Okay. We also have the option of changing to auto schedule or manual schedule within the task timeline here. If I change it to manual schedule, I can move this task wherever I want to. It still links it together, but it doesn't automatically put it at the end. So we could have them running in parallel. Whereas if I change it to auto schedule, it'll automatically put it at the end of the previous task. So this is kind of the beginning of what we call a critical path, in that if a task is only possible after the previous task happens, we say that's almost the critical path for that specific task to be done, but I'll talk about that later on. So we've got prototype house and we've got Uddersley Moes house. So then if I go back into the this here, we can see we've also got some milestones within this, because we want to, let's say, work towards a midway submission in week 11, which is the end of the week here. That's a milestone. That's something we need to take into account in our project planning. We need to know when that happens. Similarly, we've got an evaluation in week 15. We've got a submission up here. So I'm just going to put in, first of all, this milestone here, midway submission. Go back into MS Project. And up here at the top, we have a button for milestone. And what did we call that one? We can call it midway submission. Midway submission. And we can give it a date, which is, what's today's date? Today's date is the 11th, so the 13th. And we can also move it out of the semester project, because maybe we don't want it in there. Maybe we want it outside of it, just in terms of our organization. So let's move it outside. So we should be able to see now that we have a milestone shown here within the project. So this is kind of something that you work towards, and it doesn't have any. It doesn't have any. It's got zero. Working time within it. It's just something you can put into the project that allows you to keep track of it. It's also can be useful because at the top here we've got an overall timeline. If I go right click on this and if I say add to timeline, we can see in the overall timeline of the project now we have this midway submission, and it shows where it is across the entire timeline of the project. Okay? Does that make sense? Show me some understanding. Just say yes or no.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So we've got timelines. We've got the overall. Semester project, and I'm going to. I want to move that one actually up. Let's just change that one back. Oh, we need to just put it back in here so it doesn't disappear. This one moves back that way. And now, once we've done that, we can continue to divide the overall tasks up into smaller tasks. So it's the same process again. I can select midway submission here. If I right click here, I can say insert task. And actually, I'm going to do that twice. Insert another task. And if you do it twice, then you can do it again. It'll automatically insert 2. If I want to insert more than that, it just does it in terms of how many we've selected. So now I've inserted 8 tasks. And let's just insert, just so we know we have enough. I've inserted a lot of tasks in there. So now I can take the deliverables from the overall project diagram here. I can just select them, Control C to copy them, and Control Paste, and it sets them in to the MS Project time plan for us. Once I've done that, I can select them again, and I can give them the indent, which makes them subordinate to the prototype house. So now we have the opportunity to put a time against all these deliverables within the project itself. I think I'm going to hold a pause there and get everybody to do that.
Do what?
Don't you start. So let's say I further wanted to subdivide this. If I go back into the, I keep opening that one up. If I go back into the plan here, I can see that these drawings that I've cut and pasted in, I have them under subjects. So they're under GIT and DAP, which is the Revit and Design Architectural Principles subject. So I'm going to put that in there, just so I can have more organization in the project. So I'm going to go Insert Task. I'm going to call it DAP stroke GIT. And then I'm going to select all the drawings I have, and I'm going to indent them again. So suddenly they've become part of the DAP task. And you can see that as I do that, it creates another overall summary task here. Now I can continue that process with the rest of the drawings, the stuff for Alan down here, PBM and PSM, but I'm just going to keep on the DAP stuff because it's the same process. It doesn't make any difference. Now, if I want to now, I can say, well, a functional diagram, that's going to take 1 day. A location plan, that's probably going to take 2 days. Site plan, I can start to add what I estimate the time is for each of these individual tasks. If I just make that bigger so we can. And you can see every time I put in an estimated time plan, it makes a little entry over here in the calendar. It's not happening in your computer. Okay, it might be a setting. I'll have a look at that in a second. Now, again, we could probably say here that the functional diagram is the most important thing in this layout of drawings, because if you haven't worked out the functional diagram, if you don't know how the rooms work together and how all the spaces interact, you can't really start drawing plans or anything like that. So we could say that all these elements under here are actually dependent on the functional diagram. So let's just make them all. If I select them all like this, I could say link, and you can see that because they're automatically scheduled, it will tell you exactly when you need to start doing any of these drawings based on the amount of working hours we've put into the project so far. So, and it also increases the summary task along the top here, so you can see that the total number of days that we're now using for these drawings is 12.22 working days. I'm going to post that there again. Okay, so that's pretty much the principles of setting up tasks within Revit. So you can continue with this, and you could actually add in all the tasks. You could add in your model iterations and all that kind of stuff in here. You can give them an estimated time, and you can basically plan your entire project based on this. It should automatically take into account the weekends here. You can see that it's this furnished dimension floor. I've given it 3 days. What it's actually done here is it's taken it all the way through from Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's taken 3 working days, because we set that up at the beginning, is that the weekends are not working days. But in your case, you could set it so the weekends are working days, depending on how your project is going. But that's really the basis of how to set up tasks within here. So we have the opportunity now, if we wanted to move one of these tasks, or it started to act a little bit, if our planning wasn't working that well and we had to start a little bit later, we can move things, and if we have it automatically scheduled, it'll automatically move everything for us. If I move this over here, it moves the entire thing out for us. So if you set up all your individual small tasks like this, you can then link your overall summary tasks together as well. So it means you can keep control over the entire project, as long as you're very accurate with what you're putting in there. I think that's enough for today. I think I'll leave it at that. If you set up your tasks here for the current project you're doing now, then next time we have this, I'll get you to set it up for your resources, and we'll talk about cost and all that kind of stuff as well. Okay? Any questions about it so far? Does it make sense? Yeah.